Hi, and welcome to another episode of Wine and Wisdom. I'm Thomas Le Hoang, and you're listening to the TL podcast, where knowledge is shared and no one takes themselves too seriously.
He's getting so much sleep. Cheery bastard, isn't he?
Old man bastard. Seriously.
You guys are full of-
Cheery bastard. He got through
All right.
24 practical.
All right, so let's have a look. This
I know,
week,
24 recruits, man. That's a lot. And 80%, you had the numbers right. Maybe we should take him to the track. Maybe you can back the horses as well.
no, I will win if the recruits are the one running.
We had one of those races and I won, didn't we?
We just talked about him backing the wrong horse for 10 years. So.
All right, guys. So today's
Wine.
is proudly sponsored by Danola Cellars, straight from the garage. It's brands... Jeez, I can't...
I found the other 20%.
Brands Lair, it's a Coonawarra. It's called a 171. It's a 2012 Cap Sav. Beautiful region of Australia.
Now, I've got a question. Oh, hang on. Finish
So
introducing it, then I've got a question.
what's your question? What's your question? You
It's not the one.
interrupting him.
It's not the one he brought, and I want to know why he was holding out on us.
Holding out what?
This wasn't the original wine you had.
Oh,
for
okay.
today.
I'll tell you.
I
I'll tell you
know.
the
I know
story.
that
No.
one because we'd have
This is
that
actually
one before.
cheaper than wine. This is actually cheaper than the other wine I bought. So the other wine I bought, I must have, had a bit of a pensioner moment, or I don't know, almost 50. I didn't remember, or I forgot that I had bought that same wine previously. The other bottle that I had bought, which was the Vicar. So I had actually forgotten I'd already bought.
So it
that
had
wine.
nothing to do with you thinking this wine was better than the Vicar and not worthy of us. Is that not what?
No, not at all.
Definitely not.
Not
That
at all.
is so bad to think that, man.
I'm just
at all.
asking the questions,
No,
mate.
not
I'm
at
here
all.
to ask questions.
I'd
that's
actually be
all.
surprised if the Vicar wasn't a better wine. However,
It wouldn't have won last time. Have you ever won?
a number of times. What's going on here today? Was it a bit,
Just got questions,
did you not
mate.
sleep well last night? And did you not take a sleeping tablet? Is he the one? I don't know. I don't know. You bring one good wine and you think you can speak.
Mate,
now.
that was
What's
pretty
going
good.
on, man?
We might be on
It
for
was
the first.
a good Pinot. It
Might
was
be
a
the
good
first-
You
Pinot.
need to listen. You need to listen carefully. His wine, right, could be beating yours.
Could
So
be.
he is now doing all he can
Could be.
to have the other percentage on his side. All right, come on. Let's
All right.
taste
All
his
right.
wine.
Sorry, mate. How dare I ask?
No, by all means, ask away. Oh, look at that.
Wow. Dark.
Dark cherry colour. Look at that.
Mm. Oh, that's nice, isn't it?
Yeah, I would be
2012.
I'd be surprised if this wasn't a good drop.
171. That's a commission you charge, yeah?
0.171, mate.
That's what he meant. he dropped the point.
Oh, mate. Sorry, Cam.
That is
Hands down,
nice.
that's better.
Have it with a bit of cheddar. Cheddar helps.
That's
Does it have that caramel taste to it?
bit of smoke.
Bit of exhaust. That's
Nice.
nice.
Nice. Reasonably priced. I know I had to swap bottles. I think that's about $70 a bottle or something. But
Okay.
so I had to bring the better bottle because I picked the
Supposed to
person
be over
spoke
100,
about.
mate. Just
And this person
I
is?
was supposed to be over 100, but I doubled up on the bottle, right? So, all right, the person is David Goggins. David Goggins is an American, and he's another one that's alive still, another person that's alive.
Yeah.
David fucking Goggins.
Yeah, so if you ever speak to him, he swears every second word, like our friend Cameron, who's tamed it down a fair bit since we've started. But, did you do a bit of...
Who is
Cam,
he,
you
mate?
already-
You got to introduce him. That
Cam,
was a horrible introduction. Who is he?
So David Goggins is a African-American gentleman who is 46 years of age, and he's one of very few people to be a Navy SEAL, an airborne ranger. He's also passed quite a few other military sort of, what do you call them?
Oh, this is good. Yeah, good.
Achievement. I don't know what you
Can
call
you do
them.
the eulogy at my funeral?
Absolutely,
this has
mate.
been
It'll
good,
be,
he's,
pick up your shovel, boys. Let's get him covered. So now, he's turned to ultramarathon racing. So he holds a lot of records.
He's an ultra endurance athlete and a complete nutcase, from what
Yeah,
What
and
a
he's a
researcher
freak.
too.
And he's a freak when it comes to what he's achieved.
He
in
holds the
life.
world record for chin-ups,
Did
4,030.
2014. Yeah.
4,030 chin-ups.
Yeah.
4,030 chin-ups.
So,
Is he
in short, his life as a child was extremely violent, and the family was well off, but the father was an absolute tyrant. He hated his father. They grew up in Buffalo in America, and his dad had roller skating rinks and nightclubs, and his dad would run prostitutes from Canada to America, and wasn't a nice guy. At the age of, I think he said 7 or 8, he saw his father hold a gun to his mother's head, and his dad said to him one day, "Don't go on the road." His bike tyre just touched the road, and his dad beat the living shit out of him. So he had a very, very hard upbringing.
Should have listened.
His mother eventually
Touch my
escaped.
car.
His mother eventually escaped, and so he moved on. But he had a lot of issues growing up. But Cam, you know a bit about him as well. Have you read his book?
I haven't read the book. No, I've been listening to him for a while. He's a bit of a regular on the Joe Rogan Experience,
Yep.
and so there's anyone who wants to learn more about him. He tells his whole life story twice over 3 hours, so 6 hours of listening, and it's pretty extraordinary. He'd be known to a lot of people for just a ranting, raving lunatic on Instagram who's swearing at people all the time for not getting up and running 100 miles a day, it's quite literal. The bloke runs marathons every single day of the week, but it's not where he came from, and the biggest story in him is where he came from. And he, as Chris alluded on, he had quite a rough upbringing. When his mum eventually left his dad for all the stuff that was going on, they went to a place in Louisiana that only had 10 black families in the whole town of 10,000, and the Ku Klux Klan used to march at the Independence Day rallies there, so he had to deal with quite a lot of racism growing up. His dad didn't believe in school, so he was extremely uneducated. He had a speech impediment from the age of 3. He didn't know how to read and write.
That's why he had to work so young at the age of 6.
He had to work instead of going to school.
Skate ring.
Yeah. So all the issues that came along with that, in his words, he had to create two people. Not create two people. He had to create a second David Goggins, because the one that he was scared, insecure, quit at everything, didn't think he'd ever amount to much, and he created this persona as a tough guy that no one wanted to mess with, and eventually throughout his life he actually turned into the tough guy that no one wanted to mess with. But the trials that he went through, he's the only person in history to have to go through Hell Week to get into the Navy SEALs 3 times in 1 year.
Yeah, 3 times.
But before that, he was too fat to make the Air Force, and too dumb to make the Air Force. So,
and that was from having to cheat all his life. So he got through school by cheating from other people's
copied every exam to junior high school, and then when it came to do the entrance exam for the Air Force, he got that lower score. He got 20. They need to be up over 50. He got 20 his first time. He got 18 the second time, and he only had one more shot at it. And even though his mum could only afford to pay $30 a month for the house they were renting in, she managed to find him a tutor for 1 hour a month for 6 months, and he managed to pass that exam.
And during that period, at the same period, he dropped the weight. So he was
not yet, bro. No, he got into the Air Force first, and then he wanted to be a SEAL, but he's got people who don't understand, Navy SEALs do a lot of stuff in the water, and he's got a
phobia,
a huge phobia of water, and he couldn't make the SEALs the first time, so he went and took a job in the Air Force that didn't involve water, but he put on 165 pounds during that time. He then quit that because he was 165 pounds, and chocolate milkshakes were his favourite poison, so he went for a job as a pest controller and started working as a pest controller, and it there was back and forth between the weight, his fears, and pest controlling and the Army for a few times before he eventually made it into the Navy SEALs. But
it took him a while to get there, and he had to cut a lot of weight, pass a few exams, and to get through the SEALs. Hell Week, he was the only person, like you said, to do Hell Week 3 times. And he said Hell Week was the biggest thing that wrecked his body, regardless of all the marathons he did and all the chin-up competitions he did. The 3 Hell Weeks are the ones that took the biggest toll on his body.
Well, he quit the first time. He quit the first time. He got diagnosed with celluliosis, I think was the disease which can kill you. And when they told him... Sickle cell. When they told him he'd have to start the course again because he'd missed a week of it, he quit. And He's an interesting dude because based on a lot of the stuff that we talk about on a regular basis, especially from the Stoic book, his self-talk is not good.
No.
The way he talks to himself or about himself is not good, but he feels that hate for himself or that shame for himself to turn him. He's now turned him into the complete antithesis of who he was, which a lot of people find inspiration from. But I think if you dig a bit deeper, it's caused more issues than not, because there's a bit of him that's forgotten where he came from. And we talked in an earlier segment about putting your expectations on other people. He has a disdain for people who don't work hard and don't have that work ethic, and he admits freely that's caused a lot of issues in his life.
When he was in Afghanistan, he was actually in charge of physical training. Like in Afghanistan, all the SEALs, it's a voluntary thing to go and do the physical training with him. But he used to push people that hard beyond reason that within a month, he would only have 3 or 4 guys out of like 50 that were there doing the PT. And the CEO had to call him in and say, mate, you need to ease up. You need to ease up. And you're exactly right in saying, and he's like, if this is what I want to do, they need to be doing it. And it was a big learning curve for him. The reason I picked him was, if you haven't listened, he's got a book out called You Can't Fucking Hurt Me, right? It was You Can't Hurt Me. And he actually does a podcast with the guy who actually wrote the book for him while the guy's narrating the book. It's a fantastic audio book and simultaneous podcast at the same time. It is long. It goes for about 8 hours. But there are so many lessons within that which are fantastic. It talks about his childhood, then coming into when he was in the Navy, into the Army, and then into ultra marathons. I think the biggest reason is this guy's resilience and ability to go internalize his pain, like you were saying, in his mind. And he goes, your mind is your greatest tool, is your greatest weapon, is your mind, bar none. So the fact that when he was doing...
but that's nothing new.
But for him, the fact when he was doing his BUDS training was like a basic underwater demolition training in the SEALs.
Yeah.
One of the things was to go down to the bottom of the pool to undo 3 knots. And the instructor was there, would be down there with you. So he would stay down there a little bit longer. So the instructor needed to go up for air rather than him. And that was for him a little victory. So he would use those little things like little victories, even to enjoying the fact when they were doing push-ups and sit-ups and whatever else, where the trainers got the shits with him because he was enjoying the punishment that they were giving him. He's almost a sadistic mindset like that. He
turned his pain into pleasure. None of his ideas are, I think as Thomas was just about to get at, none of his ideas are particularly new. He takes it to a level that I haven't seen before, and I don't know if it's something we can debate. Like, he uses self-hate to drive him. He freely admits that, and I don't know how healthy that is, because how healthy is it at 46 years of age to be running 205-mile ultra marathons anyway? Like,
I don't think if
you got to run yourself into the ground. But
I don't think he still does.
No, he does.
He's
mate,
still actively doing it.
Yeah, mate. He runs a marathon a day.
And this is a guy who had shin splints.
And he cops a lot of grief for it, yeah. And his social media is a huge mix of inspiration and people just giving it to him, because he'll run through. I remember watching
Death
one
Valley.
where he was running down the street in Las Vegas and it was 50 degrees outside, and he's calling everyone a bitch. And what are you doing today? Sitting on your couch? Mate, you're running in 50-degree fucking heat. It's stupid. But yes, I'm sitting on my couch eating a pizza. What of it? So, but it's an interesting concept he's got, and I guess he hasn't forgotten where he come from, because he very well talks about it. But his lack of respect for people who are in the same position who haven't quite got his drive to do something about it is interesting. Under what we were just talking about forgiving people for they don't know sort of things.
Yeah, for me, I think where it's interesting is he is a black kid who used to be bashed by his father, which in America or in a lot of families where, colored families, even in mine probably, where kids are almost the flag bearer for their parents.
Yeah.
And they bashed and traumatized, and probably we call it in this society abused, but is it abuse or is it parents' way of making sure that you never end up like me? He grows up to show the same kind of disdain and hate for people. He grows up to espouse the work ethics that his father had pushed him into getting. Yeah. right? He says he hates his father, but he grows up becoming the instrument that his father has done. Now, what was interesting for me to ask you guys is, there's a guy by the name of Carl Bashir, who was the first Black American master diver.
There's a great movie made about him.
There's a movie, Men of Honor. He too was abused by his father, maybe not to that extent, but chose to go a totally different direction, right? Goes into the Navy just to prove it to himself and prove it to a white man that, he can be their equal and take a totally different road, the road of respect, the road, the high grounds, the moral value pursuit, if you will. So how do you explain that we have these kind of divergence? And for someone not to see, mate, everything I hate, that's what I'm doing now. And I'm loving it. You tell me.
Yeah. We've just talked about forgiveness, right? And I think it might have been last week or only the podcast before where we spoke about using anger and hate to drive you will only get you so far. I don't think it's a bad starting point. If you need something to get your ass up off the couch, why not be about proving someone wrong? But it's not healthy for it to be sustained for that long. I don't know if there'd be any argument on that. And I go back to what I just said, being 46 years old and put your body through what he's putting his body through out of hate. It's perceived hate because, as Thomas is saying, he's doing it because he hated his old man and he hated himself. He is everything that he hated. And he was that, though. And so there's no self-acceptance in it.
Could it be? I don't know, right? I'm asking a question about a person who's alive who could actually maybe contact us and tell us, you guys are full of shit, this is what I am.
Beautiful.
Like, is he trying to emulate what his dad wanted him to become to earn his deserving, even though maybe he's no longer around?
There's plenty of people who've lost 150 pounds without the vitriol and the hate and the
I don't...
It's not me.
I didn't see that I didn't, in my take on it, I didn't take out that he's become who he hated. I didn't see that. I saw that he's reveled in the self-growth, the torturing himself to move beyond pain. And not torturing himself, but the growth to move beyond pain, to be able to...
So he'd be good in Abu Ghraib getting tortured, but what other life skills are in it? There's resilience there, but there's...
But with that... he's used what he had to the best of his ability. For example, when he's gone through, he finally become a SEAL and he became an instructor and they realised that we could use him elsewhere. He became a recruiter and started being a very good recruiter. Would talk to the masses about what actually happens when you go through pain, and what's written in the books is one thing, but what actually happens and what the process you go through in your head's another, and how to chase that and how to follow it and how to go past the 40% limit that most people think they get to. Once you pass that 40%, you can achieve a lot more. I don't think he paid much mind to his dad once he moved beyond that. I think there was the continual growth. I think he was quite sadistic to himself, that wanting to continually put himself and better himself through being amongst the elite. Like, how many people are in ultramarathons? How many people have done, the SEAL training and the airborne rangers? And
he says it's out of fear of
being ordinary.
No, it's not. Because if you listen to him talk, he says 3 or 4 times inside 40 minutes on one of the podcasts, all the shit with my dad and all the stuff with the racism. He keeps repeating that. So everything he does is in his mind running away from that, which means you can't say he hasn't given his dad a second thought, because everything by his own admission, all his fears were his fears were because of that, and everything he does is to not be in the same place. Now, he does talk about the biggest turning point was the day he realised that he was blaming his dad and he was blaming everyone else for in his words, the piece of shit that he is.
Yeah.
And he made a decision to change, and he tells a story about how he decided he was going to go and run 4 miles, but he could only run a quarter of a mile, and he broke down in tears and went to his mum and got another milkshake, and then he put Rocky 1 on, and long story, but he's everything is driven out of hatred and self-loathing.
Okay. I think within that, though,
he's still at his age, and this is only sort of honest, Chris, this only sort of realisation I've come to as we've started talking about it and as, a couple of wines in, but I'm going, fucking hang on a minute. Is it inspiration or is it a guy who hated himself or maybe still hates himself that's still running from something? Because at some point you got to stop and give yourself a hug and go, it's okay, mate. And then understand when people can't get off the couch, because not everyone can get off the couch and run a fucking ultra marathon, mate.
Forgive your dad, for he does not know.
No, and
he's not a stoic. There's no question.
And I think he's scared. He'll use it in his own words. He'll use it as going. He'll go, if I do that, I've gone soft.
Let's go.
His biggest saying is stay hard.
Stay hard. I thought that it was a very good opportunity for the topic that goes with our stoic of the week, because how many of us really become the best version of ourselves? How many of us are nothing else but a consequence of our education and a repetition of what our fathers and mothers feared or didn't want to happen? Yep. How many of us are nothing else but running off from a software that was computed by our parents?
I think there's heaps of people who think they're running at the best version of themselves without knowing what the best version of themselves could actually be.
Yeah.
Every idea we have has been given to us by somebody else. Everything we think has been governed
social
by
conditioning, whatever. Yeah,
your parenting,
absolutely.
your education, everything. So if you think the best version of yourself is this part-time job here making $20 an hour and whatever, and if you think that's the best you can be, then you're probably sitting there going, yeah, I've done all right, without actually realising your true capacity. And he talks about that, and I think that's a good thing. He says that people don't realise where their body can actually go.
And he actually says that he doesn't want to stop. He says that I'm extremely happy with his life. He's very, very happy with his life, but he doesn't want to stop. There's always the next thing. There's always something else. I can always be better.
Yes, because as long as you're running,
you don't have to sit in your own.
You're evading, and you don't have to deal with that.
You don't have to sit in your own skin for long enough to.
But by when you're running, man, there's a lot of silent hours that you're on the footpath. You can think. I'm sorry, man.
Yeah, but pain takes it away.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of self-searching when you're out there.
I'm not talking as long as you're running, like physically, right? I'm talking about he goes from trying to achieve one thing and the next achievement, and next achievement. And there are people in life who are really running away from that side of education they say they don't like, but that's actually shaped them.
We talk about it so we spend a lot of time, and I think you mentioned it last podcast, people not being happy with what they've got, so they're always chasing the new thing, right?
The next thing,
All that he's doing is doing it in a sense that's health and fitness, so everyone goes, oh, that's okay, because he's not buying a new car, he's not buying a new house, but I've just done 4,030 chin-ups, now I've got to find something else to do. It's the same routine of not being happy with where you're at,
I hear what you're saying with this guy, though. I think there's points in his life that he turns off technology. He actually disconnects from the world to spend time with his own head. So whether that's to...
It's an angry, angry place.
Well...
I'm not dissing a bloke. Like, he'd kick the shit out of me, and I'm not dissing him, but it's important that we sit.
No, absolutely. But everyone's allowed their opinion, 100%. I don't know. I mean, the guy, to me, he's seen someone who's got a lot of resilience, a lot of growth, a lot of retrospect on where he's come from and where he wants to be, where he wants to go.
Yeah,
I don't think he knows where he's going.
But me, I see it different. I see it as someone who's imprisoned by his past.
His fear of his past.
And who is now finding a little bit of contentment in life through his physical strength and his physical gifts. And as long as it's working, I would say he won't have a problem. I probably would dread the day it won't happen again, because by that he either needs to reinvent himself or he will self-sabotage and self-destruct.
He will die. And there's a few times in here that he's come close to self-sabotaging. For example, it was discovered he had a hole in the heart. He had a heart defect. He had a hole in his heart and he didn't know that. The day before he went in for an operation, he went and did a bloody run. I think he called it a ruck run, where he had a backpack on for 20 miles carrying 25 kilos. He goes, because I knew I couldn't run afterwards. I think that was a selfish move, because he has his wife and his, I don't know, 1 or 2 kids now. He keeps his private life quite private. So I think he's very selfish at the same time.
Don't get me, like I put his podcast on the way down here to listen to some of it again, and it makes you want to run through a wall, and it'd be great for before a game of footy and be great before getting in the boxing ring. And for people who are after 5 minutes of motivation on Instagram, we've talked before about the people who pay thousands of dollars to go and do courses and are revved up for 2 days and then go back to their old habits. The more I talk and the more I think about it, I don't know if his way of life definitely isn't sustainable for the average person. But he says that. But he considers your average person as mediocre, and I don't think that's healthy either, because, as we said before, we shouldn't be putting our expectations onto other people unless they're playing the same game, right? Which is maybe when he's in Afghanistan, he's got the right to put the expectations on the people who are fighting the war beside him, but to put his expectations on the human race as general as being mediocre and soft because they're going through shit in life. Yeah.
Look, he's done some good in his life. I mean, not only representing his country, I mean, in the military, but he's also raised over $2 million for the children of fallen SEALs. So he's been part of that fund. But there's a few sayings that I really picked up. One I thought that I was really good was be uncommon amongst uncommon people. So find a group of really top performers and outperform them. Be uncommon amongst the uncommon people, which I thought was fantastic.
If you want that, though.
No, absolutely. If you want to. But even if you want to be the best bricklayer, find the best bricklayers and then be the best amongst the best.
Does being the best version of yourself mean being the best at what someone else is good at?
Well, you'd have to compare that to something, wouldn't it? Wouldn't there'd be a bar there of
the
standards?
best you can be, because there's only one you. We all sell houses in this room. We're probably all at different levels.
Majority of people fall back to the common denominator, right? We are the sum of the majority of the people we hang around. Yeah, so to be the best of you, wouldn't you be better than hanging around better people?
I don't think fighting to be the best person in every room you ever walk into, I don't know where that ends, because they're
I know exactly where that ends.
You know,
you kill yourself
because you can never be.
You'll be so unhappy.
One day you're going to walk into a room and there's someone better than you.
Yeah, you'll be so unhappy.
There's always. So yeah, I don't know, and it's just full disclosure. I listening to his podcast and reading about him, and I've followed him for a while. He gives me that 5 minute bit of inspiration that I need sometimes. So to sit here and talk like this about it is only a very, as of 5 minutes ago, sort of revelation that hang on, what this dude's doing probably isn't the healthiest way about going about life. You know, the way he talks about himself. That's hard, man. That's hard. But that's his whole saying is stay hard. Anything less than what he's doing is soft, and I don't know if that's well, we do know. I keep saying I don't know. I don't think that's the healthy for people.
However, there seems to be in society for the moment that
probably more people like him than more the pussies that are running around crying about absolutely everything. Yeah,
but there's a search for those people who are doing things that we can't do. So and in that respect, I have to say, he's doing a lot of things that we can't do, and that's fantastic.
100%.
I like, especially when we just walked out from a Stoic thing. I like to look at a person as a person. Is my life about becoming the best bricklayer? Is my life about comparing myself and reducing myself to just bricklaying, or is bricklaying just a part of my life? And then there's so many other parts that you can be better than me at bricklaying. But then every other part of your life be behind me. So who's better then? So I think we can't have a reductionist view of life and as a human being.
Doing your best, not being the best. The object in everything we do is to do your best, the best that you can do. And is very rarely going to translate into being the best.
I think one of the things he says though is a lot of people don't realise how good they can be because most people stop at 40%. They get to 40%, and that's where they stop.
I get that. But when he trains those people, and he called 48 out of 50, how much is he really doing to get the other 48 to be the best they can be? Oh. You know. So when he's doing that, I then look at: are you doing what your father's doing now onto these people and make them pay for it, or are you really doing the best you can in elevating them? Because shouldn't that be 80% pass mark rather than 80% failure? I mean, in this case, it's even more than that. Obviously, in this case, it's 96% failure, you know? So
and if
this is why, for me, I see and I admire his athleticism his physical achievement.
His drive.
But I think that's the only place it's not for me, because even his drive to me is not positively geared. His drive,
He's running on
is
hate.
a run away from something, and that kind of hate. Therefore,
Yeah.
I'm going to show you. I don't know whether I could really.
Relate to that. Well,
Thomas could never run an ultra marathon. That's what we know.
he has trouble running to the fridge, seriously.
However, I do not define my life from marathon. All right.
And I think it's important. Like, it's not a bad pick, Chriso. Don't feel like we're
No,
piling
no.
on, because I think it's important that we can pull apart.
With this guy, I knew there was a lot of negatives, and I think he's very selfish.
I think
No,
it's-
I think that you've done a good pick. I think it's a very good pick.
I think it's very
because
selfish.
I
but-
think it's
sometimes we
important.
always pick good ones.
Yeah, I think it's important we always pull apart the people, even when we think they're good ones, because it's it's important that just because everyone else gets inspired by someone, if we can look a little bit deeper and go, and then here's a perfect example. Hang on, this bloke's running on hate. John Lennon was running on LSD. It's not all good. It's not all roses just because Instagram says it is. And I think that's important.
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well done, mate.
that wine was.
Yeah, I
outstanding.
think
I'm sorry.
your wines amazing, amazing.
Your wine was good.
I'm
but
still very
sorry,
happy with my pick. I'm not saying it's better, but for a Pinot,
now it's gotten better.
We can vote. So
Yeah.
is Chris wine better than who says that Chris wine is good?
You're
Yeah.
the
It's better
deciding.
than
You're
yours.
the deciding vote.
I
mate.
decided. Oh, okay. So
'Cause
you
you
go
know
for
where
the-
I'm going.
You go for your wine, is
I
it?
like my wine, bro. No, that's very good.
No, well,
I
well
don't like
done.
heavy
Well
reds,
done,
mate.
Chris. Thank you very much.
All
Well done,
good,
boys.
guys.
Talk
See
soon.
ya, man.
Awesome.